Hello and welcome to another episode of Cake Fight Presents The Making of Kaleidoscope. I'm writer, director, producer Paige Feldman, and this week, as every week, I'm taking you inside my process of making my debut feature film. We're going from idea to premiere in real time. So last week I left you on a bit of a cliffhanger. I left myself on a bit of a cliffhanger because I was completely at a loss for ideas as to how to solve this massive problem I have in my outline. This is such an important thing I need to figure out before I start writing. And I'm just stuck. I need to do some more brainstorming, but I don't know what questions to ask. Is it, what are Lee's goals? Is it, what sorts of... My writers group told me, rightfully, that they didn't think that the night of the party was the worst night of Lee's life. And when I looked back on it, I realized, it's not. It's definitely the worst night of Jonah's life, and there's evidence there to support it. But unless Lee has a parallel or a similar experience, their romance isn't going to hit as much, their bonding isn't going to hit as much, because they're not both going through the same thing in a different way. They're not trying to solve the one night that has caused all of their problems. Lee's just stuck in a time loop. Jonah's the one with the real issues, and that throws the whole relationship off balance. So despite all of the brainstorming I could do and all of the thoughts and the free writing, I couldn't figure out how to fix it. So after I showed you all that last week and had my little bit of a sad confession that I was having a lot of trouble, I took a break. For a couple reasons. First of all, How to Fall in Love the Hard Way, my audio romantic comedy series, is in production. We're just finishing up episode 10, which is the last episode of season 1. And, I had a couple recording sessions. But by the time Friday rolled around, I couldn't just keep taking a break. For one, I was hoping, and I wasn't really admitting this to myself, but this is really what was happening. I was hoping that this break that I took was going to create some sort of grand epiphany for me. And I was just going to wake up one day knowing the solution because I let the problem marinate in my brain. That didn't happen. And then I have to have something. I need to get my butt in the chair to write because I have to have something to put on YouTube for y'all. So thank you for keeping me accountable. So I sat down on Friday and got to work on the problem, and it sort of proves my first theory about writer's block, that the best way to work through a problem of not being able to write, being stuck on where you are, is to just keep writing, and eventually a solution will pop out. It's a little bit more complex than that, and actually I have a little friend here that I'm going to use to demonstrate. This is one of my grandma's Russian nesting dolls. She is really the key to understanding writer's block and understanding what problems I'm having, because I have a kind of a solution now to why this is the worst night of Lee's life. I don't know if it's the right solution, but it's one that I can move forward with. And here's the deal. Got some tea first before I... So this is how writer's block's like Russian nesting dolls. You start with one problem. She's one problem. And then you try to solve one problem. And eventually, you open her up, and there's another problem inside. And it's a different problem. Maybe it's smaller, maybe it's bigger, because this is a theoretical Russian nesting doll. It could in fact be bigger. You start with a second problem. And then, eventually, you work that problem more and more, and you get to a third problem. Again, could be bigger, is smaller in this physical Russian nesting doll, but a metaphysical one could be much larger. And in my case, this third problem was the solution. However, it doesn't have to stop there, because maybe there's a fourth layer or a fifth layer, and maybe there's a sixth layer, but not here. You can't break her open. She's so tiny. Look at that. I had to crack open all of these layers of my problem before I could figure out how to solve it. And obviously, I documented that whole process. So I'll just take you to the videotape, and then once I'm done, come back to wrap it all up. Friday night, it's 9:30 p.m. So obviously the only thing I could be doing right now is doing some writing and figuring out what the heck Lee's problem is. I'm cool. I have fun. Turning on my Spotify Wrapped came through, and apparently I really like Taylor Swift. So what that means is that I haven't been listening to Spotify enough while I've been writing, because none of this ambient electronic chill even came close to making it on the charts for me. My 17-year-old self would be so embarrassed at how much Taylor Swift I listen to. But, I mean, life's too short to be embarrassed by things you like. Headphones on. I am going to do some stream of consciousness writing to try to figure out how Lee's life and Lee's goals could be derailed by this party.
Friday night around 7, stuck behind your desk and by the phone.
This will be the last call. In 20 minutes you're done being alone.
Looks like it's so into my writing that I just have to take off my jewelry. So watch going off.
Everything succeeded, so take that bag and walk right out the door.
And here is one for the road. Nobody cares and everyone's on the run. Run, run to clear your mind. I know it's all there is to be. Slowly erase your destiny and I know it's all there is to be. Slowly erase your destiny, and you'll be just fine.
Don't you ever down, 'cause we got it covered. Everyone here knows what's on your mind. Don't you ever down, 'cause we got it covered. So let it out, just let it out. And even if it rains, love will be the ruler. The clouds will feel ashamed. The sun will be inside.
So that was about 50 minutes of productive brainstorming. I feel like I have a general idea of what I want to change for Lee. I want her to have no choice but to stay with Devin, or feel that way, so she can't have the life that she wants. And also for her to maybe have some sort of regret about photography. Maybe she loses a contest or something that makes her feel like she just needs to leave LA, get it out of her mind. So that night maybe marks her having to give up on this new life that she really wanted. I like that direction. Definitely feel less hopeless than I did last week. But I'm gonna sleep on it and see what else happens tomorrow. Hey Kirk, do you want to be on camera? Hi, come here. After I hit stop record last night, it's Saturday right now, I'm just about to go out for the evening, I kept thinking about what I was writing, about Lee's potential new bad thing that happens during the party, how it changes her life, and it wasn't bad enough, I don't think. And I don't have a solution for how it can be bad enough, but one thing that I'm thinking about is the idea of how your characters can feel set in stone, or mine do, and how I'm going to have to change some assumptions I have about them. Because in continuing to think about Lee's problems and talk them out, and I talk them out a little with my fiance, who is a lawyer, who can help give me some perspective on certain aspects of the legal system, like partner track and how offers work, and how maybe it would work if Lee wanted to quit the firm and didn't necessarily have a way back in. I realized that all of the ideas I was looking at, I was limiting myself, because I have a certain conception of Lee in my mind, that she is an ice queen, that she's aloof, that she thinks she's right, that she doesn't want to do her photography because she thinks it's frivolous. And that I like it. I still like that idea, but if she's happy not doing photography, the only thing that happens to her after the party, the first party, is that she has to stay with Devin because she feels bad for him. I mean, she still has a job as a lawyer, even if it is in Los Angeles, even if she is sad about the fact that she's not able to be away from LA and still doing her photography. It's all of these scenarios are things that someone who's so self-assured and confident and thinks they know what they want could easily change. I think the reason that I'm so stuck on this is not because I can't figure out a good scenario. It's that I think that I need to find a different flaw in Lee. She can't be inflexible. She needs to be able to be flexible in a way that makes her miserable. Was just going on a train of thought last night. I couldn't even tell you about this train of thought if I were to try to trace it back, because it just went so many different ways. But the place where I ended up is actually rooted in my own experiences, which is something I do a lot with characters, is find an experience that has a certain emotion attached to it and then use it to build a character. And that is that I was in law school. I have a JD. I've never practiced. I figured out very early that I didn't want to be a lawyer. I would have been good at it, but it wouldn't have made me happy. It wouldn't have fed my passion. And whenever I tell people that, they said, "Oh, but wouldn't you think about working in entertainment law?" I said no. It would be like being a celiac working in a bakery. I'd be so close to everything I wanted, but I'd not be able to touch it because it would hurt. It would feel like it was just wrenching my guts, gross stuff. It was difficult for me to admit that and to quit I didn't quit law school, but quit the idea of I had to be a lawyer because, I'm like classic gifted kid. I was always the good one in class. I was quiet. I listened. That actually made people in Hebrew school not really like me. While my whole gifted kid thing makes me a people pleaser. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way because I was very quiet and I was afraid to talk to people, afraid to say the wrong thing. So what if Lee's Ice Queen exterior isn't because she is so confident? It's because she's terrified of making the wrong move. She just wants to be a good girl, do the right thing. She doesn't necessarily need to be liked. She just needs to know that she's not disappointing anybody. And so that's the question I'm wrestling with now. I'm just wrestling with the whole conception of her as a character and trying to figure out what this good girl thing means for the plot, for her love of photography versus being a lawyer. Did she try to break out of it the night at the party? And then Devin got in an accident and she just couldn't leave him because that wouldn't be right. So I've been making progress. I'm making progress in a different way than I thought because I'm no longer I am still looking for a thing that just blows up Lee's life, but I'm no longer just looking for a thing. I'm looking for Lee's motivations to create her own hell because she's not getting in a car accident. She has to create her own car crash. So it is Sunday, December 5th, and after the revelations that I had yesterday/Friday about how Lee isn't a self-assured ice queen, but aloof and closed off because she just wants to be good, and her motivation is to be a good girl, I need to figure out what that means for her at the beginning of the story so that I can understand why she might have made a choice to make herself live a miserable life and a life that she doesn't feel like she can get out of, a life that she feels she can only change by going back in time. It's a tough order, especially because Jonah's trauma is very much an event. Lee's trauma has to be a choice because I'm not going to put her in the car as well. Or maybe I will. I don't know. This is what the free writing is for. So I'm going to sit here and free write and try to answer the question, why is this party the worst night of Lee's life? How did it lead her to misery? What choices did she make? I wish that I had a magic solution here, something that I could show you, a trick. I mean, my brainstorming technique is fantastic, but only when I have a clear idea of a thing I need to find out, a question I need to answer. In this case, writing is hard work. Let's see if I can make it pay off. I'm sure I will. Let's see if it'll happen today.
But that's not the truth. Everyone always keep falling in love again. The fuck's wrong with them? I don't understand. Maybe it will pass by. Someone save me before I pass out. I'm too lonely to be done. I'ma drink at this page. Yeah. Why am I the only one who's left in the rain with nobody to hold on to? Ooh. Why am I the only one who's feeling this pain when there should be two of us? And yeah, I know we both wanted different things, but letting go just comes easy to you, don't it? Why am I the only one who's left in the rain? If I had an option to be someone else, I would, and let go of you. I know that I'm obvious, fuck it, I'm made this way. But why didn't I stay when I had the chance? Maybe it will pass by, someone save me before I pass out. I'm too lonely to be done, I'ma drink at this pace. Yeah. Why am I the only one who's left in the rain with nobody to hold on to? Ooh. Why am I the only one who's feeling this pain when there should be two of us? And yeah, I know we both wanted different things, but letting go just comes easy to you, don't it? Why am I the only one who's left in the rain?
this one flew.
Am I the only one? 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 Wish I could say I was finally over you, but that's not the truth.
All right, so that was about 20 minutes of free writing, and I feel like I have a solution now. I mean, who knows what's going to happen when I keep thinking about it. So right now I have that Lee feels stuck in her life as a lawyer, and it's making her upset because she knows what she could have had. She knows that she's good enough to have a career in photography, but she doesn't have this sure thing, this opportunity anymore. I'm worried that it isn't going to feel like enough for people who aren't lawyers, because there's a whole thing. When I went to law school, there were so many people who, when I said, guys, I'm not going to practice, I'm going back to LA, I am going to get a job as an assistant and just work in development and be a writer and be a director, they all said, oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm so jealous. I wish I could be a writer. I wish I could be an interior designer. I wish I could be a photographer. I wish. So many people who are miserable, who have so many dreams, and they don't pursue them because they're too much in debt. They feel like there's a sunk cost in law school. It's a real thing, this keeping yourself in a box because you have this education now, you spend all this money, you spend all this time, but it's a box that's making you miserable. And that's where I'm putting Lee. I hope that that feels like enough. That she had her opportunity. She decided against it because she felt like she had to take care of Devin. Had to be in this relationship she doesn't really want to be in, and had to be safe and smart. I'm going to keep thinking about this now. Going to watch some football because it is Sunday morning and I have a fantasy team that will win this week, hopefully. But let's see what problems I uncover as I marinate on this solution some more. So that's where we are. I started out with a question about plot, about what could have made the party the worst night of Lee's life. And it ended up being really a question about Lee's character and how I perceived her. I was writing an Ice Queen, and it's weird. I almost feel like I prejudged her a little bit. And thought, well, she's an Ice Queen, so she must be confident, and she must be aloof and kind of bitchy. When really underneath all of that is a lot of anxiety and insecurity about not making the right decision, about not being the person she needs to be, about not being able to live up to the standards she has for herself. And really, a lot of that stuff in her is also in me. Like I said, I did go to law school, and I tried really hard to be a lawyer, but it just wasn't, it didn't make me sing. It didn't make me feel like that's what I was meant to do. And it didn't help that I was in the bottom third of my class for the first time in my life. That was tough. And having, up until that point, always been a high-achieving person, learning that I'm not perfect and trying to figure out a new path for myself, even if that new path was the old path of being a writer and a filmmaker, it wasn't easy. And I love putting pieces of myself into characters. None of my characters are autobiographical. They all have something of my own experience in them. And I was basing Lee off of a lot of people I went to law school, people who said that they wanted to do things other than be a lawyer, but they felt stuck. I understand that feeling too, and I was denying that. I was denying that I knew how it felt to want something so badly that I needed to protect myself from it, because why did I go to law school in the first place? It was because I had a series of bad internships when I was at USC undergrad. I have a film degree from USC, and the internships were not great. But I was also about to be a senior in college, and I knew I'd have to get a job, and I was afraid of what the real world would bring. Would it bring success? Or would it bring rejection? And I was really afraid it would bring rejection. And I wanted a safety net. I wanted a parachute. And so I went to law school for that. So in that way, Lee and I are actually really similar. So that is what was inside the rushing nesting doll of this writer's block. It's not about the plot. It's about finding sympathy and finding more of myself inside Lee, finding a time when I felt vulnerable and had to fix something to make my own life feel whole. At this point, Lee is going to have an opportunity to travel the world and be a photographer, live out her dream. And she's going to quit her firm for this opportunity to be a photographer. And then Devin gets in the accident and she sees how much can be taken away from you in just one moment, and make the choice that seems sane and sensible and not leave him. Because also, and this is another feeling I've had, what if nobody else loves you as much as the person who you're currently with? What if you'll be alone forever? So Lee takes those fears and clings to security and everything she knows instead of taking a risk for the thing that she wants most. She knows that she could have done more, she could have been more, and she just has to live every day with these regrets, being in a relationship that's not bad, but it's not right for her, and being in a job that doesn't set her soul on fire. I don't know if that's enough for this to be the worst night of her life, but I think this is where I'm gonna go next. I'm going to get my outline polished up, add these new character elements in, and it's probably gonna have ramifications throughout the entire outline, and then send it off to my writing group, because we meet on Thursday the 9th, which is tomorrow in y'all's time, and I have one more week after that to get everything spick and span and squared away before I start drafting on December 16th. But that is going to be the story for next week, so please tune in. If you liked this video, please hit the like button. If you want to keep following my journey, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you all next week. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with more about the making of Kaleidoscope.
You will be just fine.